If you find that your watercolor practice is kind of stagnant and you're not really seeing a lot of progress, you might just love this video because it reminds you the importance of using your sketchbook. I'm including the reference photo here for you that I found on Pixabay, and I just went ahead and started without a sketch. I'm just trying to enjoy the blending of the colors and see what are these colors, how do they combine. So that's something I'm learning as I'm going. Sometimes I'm getting muddy mixtures and sometimes I have beautiful blends. So that's a great takeaway. The other thing I'm doing is I chose a brush that's probably bigger than I was comfortable with for this size, and that's going to keep me really loose. And what does the brush do? Can it pick up? Can it make the right mark for the effect I'm going for? And you can see with the sketchbook, you can just be crazy. And when the colors explode like that just did, you don't worry about it. You just pick it up and move on. And yes, I can see that there's some blooms occurring, but it's adding to the beautiful texture. So depending on how much water you use, you can get these great effects or avoid them if that's not something you're interested in. The combination of colors I have here are some granulating with the French ultramarine and the rose of ultramarine. So we get this cool speckled effect. But back to our sketching practice. So as I'm going, I'm also considering composition. Which color should I choose to create a nice interest across my layout? I pretty much stuck to the reference photo, but occasionally I just kind of went off where I thought it was going to benefit from having less yellow, say, and more blue. And that's just a matter of balancing colors across the page. And the spirit of a sketchbook is you just get to be free and try things without expectations. So don't worry if you make a mistake or if you touch your colors and they bled and you weren't intending on it, or if your picture doesn't match the reference photo. Those are not the important takeaways. It's more of, are we in control of what we're doing and are we learning as we go? So am I getting a nice contour on my fruit? Am I getting a nice color composition across the page? Am I able to add texture where I want it? Do I like this particular groupings of colors? Does it make a harmonic relationship? These are all things that you might not think you're doing, but are occurring naturally when you just allow yourself to experience the process. And again, there could be fails during this, and that's perfectly okay. Without even thinking about it, you will learn from doing. And you can see my edges of the fruit are very rough. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you wanted to sketch it out, you could work on your brush control and staying within the lines. That would have been a great exercise. And then I am somewhat sticking to the layout, but I loved the addition of the green. It didn't work exactly with my composition, so I just kind of added a few made up leaves where I wanted. And my stems, I just wanted to see how do the little brushy, thin, dark marks work with these soft blends, which I was happy with. So I kind of added those. They're not quite the same in the reference photo, but again, this is all about learning and experiencing and trying things. I decide to go ahead and go over and glaze so I get a little more of impact from the colors. And so I'm just choosing a few of them, not every plum, but some of them to say, where can I punch up the color and what does it look like when I glaze the same color over? Or what if I change the color and I get transparent layers? How does my wet on wet work as I'm going? So as you can see, without really trying, you're practicing all kinds of techniques and methods as you use your sketchbook. And eliminating that expectation really does allow you to be in the zone and feel free. Watercolor is just so beautiful the way it layers, and I think one thing I really took away from this was these different colors, essentially a primary palette, really create a broad spectrum of secondary colors along the way, which was kind of a surprise. I really hadn't planned on that. So that was fun to see that come alive. And also that I could, as I glazed over, sharpen up some of those edges. That was a takeaway that I wasn't expecting, to get, again, more dimension. I think spending time to do underpaintings really does enhance your work. And that's something that I'm currently working on improving in my own practice. So next up, I'm mixing up a background color so that I can add a little more depth. And I just did a combination of the colors used to create kind of a muddy little shadowy mixture. And I will charge it with some Payne's gray just for some additional depth where I feel like it benefits in the creases. And it's not an exact science. And again, because it's a sketch, I'm not worried about being so pristine or careful. I'm really just trying to explore. Do I like this with the background? What happens when I punch in the Payne's gray? Is it deep enough value? Am I feeling like I'm adding depth to my image rather than just treating it like a coloring book? And I think it's semi-successful. Could it have been a different color? Would that have added more depth? Probably. Could I have been neater? Absolutely. Do I mind? No, because again, this is all just part of the learning. And I know that my overall paintings are becoming better because of this type of practice. And when I don't spend time in my sketchbook, I feel like I get discouraged a lot because I have such high expectations for the work I'm doing. So here what I'm adding is white gouache. I just love the look of white gouache on top of watercolor. I know some truists feel like it's cheating, but to me it adds this beautiful painterly feel that oil paintings provide. And so just having that opaque spots of highlight, I think, is really effective. And I could also emulate the texture on the plums, especially in the blue plums, by adding that white transparent mix. The gouache is opaque, but by diluting it with water, I get more of a transparent feel, and it feels very cohesive with the watercolor. So I don't do it on everyone, but I'm just kind of looking across that reference photo and adding where I think adds some interest, again, to move the viewer's eye across the layout. And then I decide my leaves could add a little more texture, so I go in with another glaze of the green in kind of a random method here, just to punch up the color a little bit. And then I decide to go ahead and add more texture by adding some white speckles, splatters, on the fruit, which I'm liking. And then I think the leaves could benefit, but I don't want to add white, so I'm mixing up the green apatite genuine with the gouache to get an opaque green, and that wraps it up. So again, super fun to pull off the tape, as I say on every video that I'd use a border. And then one last takeaway: when you sign it, make sure to date it I think that helps you learn where you are in your practice. Thanks for joining me. Make sure to crack open those sketchbooks.